My name is Carrie Williams. I'm originally from East Chicago, Indiana. Was born there and actually made Richmond my home after marriage. My mom did quite a few activities or career work, domestic work. She also worked at a doctor's office as a maintenance woman, and later on in my later years of high school at East Chicago, Washington, she was a hall maid, so it was kind of interesting having mom so close. My dad was a foundry worker, and they were both unique parents. My dad was from Columbus, Georgia, and my mom was from Hurstboro, Alabama. Once I got married, the economic level was easier here than up in East Chicago and the Chicago area. I live on the East Chicago, Indiana side by Hammond, Gary, Maryville, but even commuting to Chicago by the South Shore or anything, it was just a higher standard of living, and I didn't know for sure if Tommy would have a job as easy as me coming down here and getting anything, since he had a major job. So he was already employed, and so we came this way. I got married. I met Tom at IU, met quite a few of Richmond nights. It was just kind of that way, and was introduced to him. And first of all, we were, pretty good friends. We had a couple of classes together, and knowing other Richmond nights and knowing him, it was just, real comfortable. But later on, we became more than friends, and we got married in April of 1983. And so that's when I moved here. As stated before, economics was better here, and we were fortunate to be able to rent in a little apartment from his shop teacher, Mr. Price, for little or nothing at that time. And really, there was not a lot different from Richmond and Chicago. Kind of small areas, industry, schools, hospital, and lots of family. I was a speech-language pathologist for 38 years here at Richmond Community Schools, and about 3 years up in the northern region at Trade Winds. And I had a couple of months at the East Chicago, Washington public schools because someone stopped or quit right in the middle of the end of the semester. So that's how I first got my foot in to actually practice what I had just graduated from. I went to Indiana University for my bachelor's, and then I went to Indiana State for my master's. And somewhere on the line, by '87, I found myself back in school because they were getting ready to change the protocol of receiving a degree in speech-language pathology. And so I got grandfathered in, which allowed me to have a lifelong license. And I was entitled to do therapy from preschool K to 12th grade. I thought for one moment there that I wanted to do something different. When I first heard about my moving here, I contacted Mr. Endowment, who had private therapy at that time here in Richmond, and he did not need a partner or an assistant at the time. But that was my first etching to try to get into the field. So when I did come, I had a chance to work for the Community Activity Central Head Start with a permanent part-time position as a special needs coordinator. And that was due to the background I had in diagnostic testing. So I would basically test the preschool classrooms of students to see if they were showing red flags in language and speech, or in any other areas that would require further testing. And that was a pretty good job for 2 years. From there, my girlfriend, as I got acquainted with people, she told me to get my application in file. So when a speech pathologist opening opened, then I could probably be one of the first to be called for an interview. And it wasn't too long. I joined the Richmond Community School System in 1985. At that time there were 5 therapists and I was the 6th one. And of course, being the last one, I had the majority of schools. We traveled around, but I was always able to maintain and had a great staff of speech-language pathologists to work with. It's a constant journey as contributing to the community. You start out with giving what you have and sharing with the students and their parents, and that reaches out into the community. From the Head Start sector to the public school sector, you have your first student that really, how do you say, really clicks into what you're trying to change or do with them, and they're dismissed from their goals that you've worked towards. You reassure parents that their child's going to be okay. You know, you have those parents that are out there and they don't really have a support system, and not saying that I would be the support system for them, but to let them know that this is natural and that's why we're here. And most of all, that, you know, you're going to be part of that teacher too. I'm not going to be able to do it all. Some things are just going to come naturally, you know, because of you in the home. So that was a reach out for the community. From time to time, I participated with the Psi Iota Xi sorority, which is a philanthropist organization that gears all of their extra activities and monies towards speech and hearing therapy. So they would have summer programs for some children who actually needed more, because speech therapy was not titled a class for summer school necessarily. And so that would be an adventure for students who really needed extra time to come. The other way to go through the community, you know, speech therapy is in the schools, they're preschool, private sector as well as public sector. You're on military bases, you're in long-term home facilities, nursing homes. So speech and language pathology goes far, far into the community. And as young as first steps, you know, we're talking about infants basically, who may leave the hospital or may be in the hospital knowing that there are drastic areas that need to be taken care of early. So we have that Birth to 5 program where lots of times the speech pathologists are needed. And once I said in the long-term facilities, we have not only older people with aphasia or brain injuries, but younger ones that may have been in a terrible accident. And so the work is carried through there also. It's been known that, I guess in the mid or late 50s, that speech language pathology was just kind of beginning to grow. And so over the years, it's made a pretty good dent in community activities across the world. The Indiana Speech and Hearing Association is just one here in Indiana, but most states have their own association, and then they have their national convention also. I got quite a few of those. And you'd be amazed to think what I had thought about saying and what I've kind of already heard, and was like, wow, it's interesting. But for me, seeing a parent literally in tears of the progress that they see their child has made, that's a defining moment. When I finally got across to an autistic child in just one activity, that's a defining moment. When I see a physical therapist, I had hip surgery last September, and my physical therapist was my student when she was in kindergarten and first grade. So the full circle, you know, there's someone who was working on speech goals at her young age, and now the table has turned where she's showing me how to strengthen my hip and get back to where I can walk again. So you have so many defining moments. You see them at the store, and you don't remember them. I might not remember them, but they're coming up, Mrs. Williams, and it's like, okay, what school were you in? You know, and it happens at Walmart. It happens at people's reunions. You run into the students that you've had, parents that have actually, you know, still showing gratitude for what I was paid to do, what I wanted to do. And so it's just they're just defining moments. It's a journey of them. We can't accomplish anything because all of us have been put here for a reason. There's a reason for every single person that's here. I had assurance, and my listening came from my parents, from the village that raised me, for the teachers that were along the way that I met, friends. But I think most of all, knowing what I wanted to do, I knew I didn't want to be in a classroom, and I knew I didn't want to be a nurse. And this fit right in the middle, where it kind of compromised for both areas. And so knowing that that was there, for me, it was like, I know I'm going to make it. I know I can do this. But most of all, my assurance, knowing that I can do that, if people are listening, for me, I'd have to say it was my faith in my Lord and Savior. There hasn't been every smooth road. I've had disappointments, I've had failures, but all in all, you don't quit. You have to keep going and accept the help that may come around. I notice that's not a big thing right now. A lot of young adults, in a sense, they try to do it all themselves, and that's good to be strong and to be able to do something, but allow the avenues that come help you along the way.